first MACO event, and well, what today's just going to be all about what we're going to be doing. We're not actually going to start any sort of like training this weekend. It's going to be starting from beginning of November, and the reason for that is because what we've chosen to do is to split up our sessions into introduction, tactical, engineering, and science. So we have a per week basis of when we're going to cover each of the skill sets, the professions, and well, basically how to get better at them, relatively speaking. Now, the session is we'll just be introducing you to it all. Now, following that up, Hershey will be covering the technical side. I will be covering the engineering side, and Shannis will be covering the science side. At the beginning of every month, there will be the introduction week. Now, this week will basically be a review of the previous month, seeing what people have learned, and then having basically a PvP match afterwards to see if anybody's improved, with maybe a couple of other side things along the side, depending on what's happened. Now, some months will have 5 weeks in them, and as a result, we'll probably have another introduction, well, at least review, a sort of week end at the end of the month to help review what happened in the previous month. And that gives us an extra opportunity to develop a few more skills before the start of the next month. Things will start normally at the beginning of the next month, so we're not going to like skip the introduction of the next one. It's going to continue on a per monthly basis. So at the first 4 weeks, you can guarantee it will be in that order: intro, attack, engine, side. The 5th week is entirely optional, depending on what it is. But today and next week, there isn't exactly anything to review, so there's going to be unique cases. But in the future, that's what it's going to be. So November, December. I think December's a 5-week month. That's when you can expect things to be covered. Specifics will be covered in each of the different sessions, and we'll be covering both space and ground. Now, it's up to you which characters you want to bring, whether it be the same character for both space and ground or different ones. We're not forcing you to do one or both, because it's obviously your skill set we're trying to improve. Now, all of this, of course, is relative. We're not going to say this is the end-all, be-all sort of skill set and builds. We're not going to force it and hammer you into a wall and say, you must use this build forever, blah. No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to, since we've basically got baselines for builds that we know work, we're going to be using those, telling you why they work and how to use them. Now, at the same time, we're going to be improving your overall skill set and, I suppose, logic and insight into how builds and skills work. So I'm hoping as time develops, each of you, if you haven't already got the skill already, will have a better insight into how to set up a build, why combinations work, and how to set them up properly in order to effectively use them, and to know your disadvantages of the specific builds. Whether that be ships, certain powers, weapon types, consoles, that sort of thing. We'll be covering it all. Additionally, in introduction, we'll be covering some of the more baseline equipment, because of course they're not specific to any of the professions. So we'll be covering the different engines, the warp cores, the shields, the consoles as well. The specifics of the consoles and how they benefit, and the different equipment types we'll be covering more specifically in the different 3 sessions to see how each of the professions actually benefit from them. Now, space is a lot more complicated than ground, so you can expect a larger time frame for that, and a bit more time for it. Ground, we have kits instead of specific powers, and obviously a bit more flexibility with the new Spire coming as well. So basically what I'm saying is that ground is, it's almost fixed in what you can expect, but it's more to do with skills on there. Space is a lot more flexible and a lot more customizable, so there is no definition as per se. Whereas ground, there is more of that present, but it isn't as like customizable as space. So expect that to come along as the weeks go by as well. We'll be starting off with the basics in November and slowly advancing towards an end point. Now, this is a new division, so expect a few rough patches along the way. Don't expect us to not like nail it completely first time. But once we've got the full sort of like curriculum lined out, we should have a good progression ready for the next time. And once we finish the curriculum, we can just keep repeating it for any members that wish to participate in the future. Haven't got that so far?
Sounds good.
Any questions before we proceed next bit? Nope. Okay. Well, you know who's covering the different divisions? Actually, tacticals, me engineers, and Shanice sciences. So if you have any specific questions before or after, and possibly during the sessions, don't hesitate to ask. Feel free to ask any questions.
Ask.
We'll be open to it. PMs on the forums, we're welcome as well in game, whatever. If you want to have PvP matches with the people that are also taking the course or any of those, then go ahead, ask us, and we'll see if we're available for that time. And don't forget, each and every match you participate in will probably guarantee to improve your skills, whether that be against a single person or in a group, depending on what kind of the scenario it is. So you'll be probably developing different skill sets at the same time, depending on which sessions you attend. And therefore, well, my goal is to generally basically any of you attending multiple sessions, my goal is to get you beefed up in those specific categories so you become a better overall player. Specialization is also good, but I find it very nice to have the flexibility to know what class you're facing because you actually have experience and know what to do in that class.
Yeah, hold on. Basically, what we will just say specialization. If you want to create specialized builds, those and that kind, that will have to wait for us. Like we said, first you will learn the basics. What comes with this? What comes with that? How to do this? How to do that? Once you pass that part of knowing the basics, then after that you learn something more. Then after you get the orders, you can then create your own specialized build for a ship you want to use only.
Yeah. As Shannon just said, there will be starting with the basics. So a few of the basic pointers we'll be covering the first 1 or 2 months will be a little boring because you've heard them all before, you know what happens. But any of you that do, just feel free to point out, like, does this work with that, or does it work with that combination? Well, yeah, like I said, we'll be covering more advanced stuff in the future. More the basic side, to give you an example, in, say, tacticals, we'll be covering, say, maybe, just as an example, a defined, because that's a tactical build. A galaxy maybe for an engineer and maybe an intrepid for a science, because those are really focused on those classes. As we get into more advanced ones, we'll be covering like battle cruisers, warbirds probably, and things like the Vesta, the Wells, versatility as well. Versatility, actually, by the way, is going to be very handy. But versatility will be handy on each of the different profession sessions, depending on what ship it is. So, for example, if it's a recluse with the Commander Universal, that's a bit of versatility right there. It would go in the science category because it's a carrier. Odyssey, flexibility, will go in the engineering ones. We're still going to break it down to the same escort, cruiser, science, vessel categories, and anything subclass to that will be going to there as well. Carriers go in science because they're science-based for some reason. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. Any more questions?
No.
Nope.
I start from right.
My advice for starter
if you have limited resources, pick one character, two characters, one for space, one for ground. So
Focus on
focus on them, and if you can, get the best equipment, we advise you, if you can. If not, we'll get something different that can also work with your resources.
So we're not going to be just teaching you well, at least helping you to grow through that ability of how to use your class more better in relative circumstances. We're also my aim at least is going to try and help people understand and perceive the different actions and the different possibilities within a match. So you become a better strategist, a better adapter. You know what to face, you know what your allies are doing, you know the combinations, what your friends are doing, so you can bounce off them without even thinking, and you can counter an enemy maneuver in less than 5 seconds because you know how to do it. That's my end goal by basically the end of the curriculum bit. And it's like I said, always. You can have the best build and the best skills in the world, but if you don't have the adaptability or the strategy to get through the match, you're done for. Because if they have a better strategy, even with lesser equipment, they can defeat you. So don't just simply count on better equipment, better builds, and maybe even better skills if you perceive yourself to be that.
And you think then that you are great already, like we said. It's also it's basically balance, skills and equipment. You know?
Oh yeah, and don't have an ego. It's bad to have an ego.
Oh yeah. Oh.
But yeah, that's what we're doing. That's my aims. I'm hoping each of you will, if you haven't achieved that already to some degree, will be able to do all of that by the end of this. Anybody listening to this, by the way, if you're unable to attend these, maybe you can catch up by PMing one of us or somebody else and PvPing in the same scenarios. If you miss a session, all that kind of stuff. If you want to attend and you can't do it in normal circumstances, that's what I suggest you do. We don't exactly have room for catch-up sessions at the beginning, middle of the week, because work is a bitch. So
we are using recording so you can catch up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why you're listening to this, all those people listening to it, because you basically need to do it at some point if you want to do it.
Go ahead, sirs.
Sorry?
I thought you started something.
No.
Well, I think that's covering most of it.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go on, Sean.
Yeah, since you part said that also, like you just noticed, don't have ego. You guys also must remember, don't be a douchebag. We don't tolerate that, a dick and idiot and that kind of stuff. If you have problems with behavior like you, like certain people have when they die, they rather rage quit or just abandon team, then the best simple solution is just don't do PvP, don't join us, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to actually know your limits, know when to stop and when to continue. If you feel that you're not having enough fun in this, if you feel like you're not having fun at all in this, I would at least advise you heavily to stop doing it temporarily. Because there's no point in doing this if you're having no fun at all, and if you're not willing to learn. And again, if we find that bad behaviors in actually happening, it will fall under the default circumstances of disciplinary action. So if you do anything, it would be like doing it as if it wasn't in this event.
Yeah, main goals are to learn something new or something different, and especially to have fun. If you're not having fun, this is pointless.
And help each other.
Skills. Yeah, and improve your skills as well.
Yeah. So
For example,
any questions, everything, just PM in game or on the forums, and we'll help in any way we can.
Yeah, and another important thing to note is that another goal of mine is to apply that kind of mindset. It's difficult to put into words because, well, apply the mindset and the logic behind what you're going to do. Apply the different circumstances, the different combinations. Try to get that instinct of thinking quickly enough to both counter a strategy mid-match and be able to create and or modify a build before and after. I can't put it into words properly. I can't stress enough how important I believe that is, because you can't keep relying on what you would consider the main people for PvP builds all the time. You have to develop it yourself, and that's the point of this entire training session. Not only to develop your own skills, but to have the ability for you to do the same thing that some of us can do already. We wouldn't be in this position if we hadn't developed the skills on our own.
Yeah, go on, Hirsch.
And adaptability is pretty key in this, because build that worked a couple of months ago now doesn't work as good as then, so you'll need to learn how to adapt to certain situations. So
I'll be keeping an... Oh, go on, Chan.
Yeah, just want to continue what Hirsch said. Basically, what Hirsch said, not just you need to have that, it is also, I will suggest you also have a spare build. For example, on my Avenger, it is now Ox to battery build, but I know that in a month or two it will be nerfed like it always does. So it is in case that happens, I have already prepared Ox to dampen as my secondary, so that I can adapt without now coming into situation that I hate a build, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yep, the basic principle behind what Hershey and Shannon just said is basically I'll be keeping an eye on what people develop as things move in time. Builds aren't going to stay the same forever. Tanks 2 years ago were pretty powerful. Nowadays we have so much DPS they're irrelevant. You rely on healers, debuffers, and DPSs, for example. But a year from now, it may reverse itself. Oxtobats may be nerfed, and cruisers may not be as good as they are. Things might change, and it will be important for you to adapt to that situation. I think adaptability is probably the most important skill I want you guys to learn. Because without adaptability, you won't have as an effective skill set, I want to say.
Also, the reserved goal with this M.A.C.O unit is, if you, after a while, if you want, we can go in, let's say, some PvP matches or interfleet PvP tournaments or interfleet PvP events or something. So we just don't do everything the same. Diversity is also key in this.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that covers most of it. Unless I've missed anything, Hershey, Janice.
What?
I don't think so, except if they have any questions.
Okay, I do have one thing to say. Basically, regarding Vivi, you mentioned a build. Yeah, I also suggest what Vivi says. You can't always depend on us3 or someone else saying, "Can you build me a build?" Over time, like everyone said, is purposely over time you guys learn to create your own builds based on what you want to do. But still, that doesn't mean you don't need any more R-help. You can still, like even I today, if I'm thinking, I'm not sure 100% of what gonna do with this bufflet, I always ask Vivi or Hershey.
Ask advice.
Advice. What do they think?
Yep, and that's an important thing. Don't expect to come up with builds by yourself, completely off the top of your head. The basic skill set is to draw from what other people have already done. That's how I think all three of us have started before.
Yes.
I basically have no idea how to play science effectively as much as Cruises or as
Same
I
here.
can. But I took Shanice's build because it was effective and I used it. And quite frankly, I don't really plan to develop my science skills anyway, but that's not the point. My point is basically that, well, like I said, don't expect to do it off the top of your head. Draw from current experiences from builds that you know work and apply it. And then apply it to your preferences, your skill set, your play style, and what you want to do with the ship, and of course the ship itself.
Yeah, for example, last year, I didn't, back then wasn't experienced like I am, but then at the beginning, I will use, back then, Weavy's builds as a template for my build. That means, even today, sometimes you will see in engineering part too much reminds of his Vorcha builds section, because I took his template then. Time by time, I started replacing certain things, do a little tweaking, remove this, put that, and create my own build. But still, I had a template built from another person.
Any questions so far?
Come on, we know you're not shy.
Okay. Yeah, I think that covers most of it then.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So what we'll be doing today is just a PvP match. We'll be doing this every month of the introduction, and actually every session, given the specializations, to see where everybody is at the current stage. It'll be more important during the introduction months to review for the past month. We'll be doing PvP matches then, and we'll be doing another one today to see where everybody is to start with.
Yeah. One more thing. It's highly recommended that you attend all the sessions if you can.
If you can,
because if you are going to use this PvP method, we need different kinds of ships and professions like engineer and sci in one PvP match. So
it's not just that as well. You get a lot more experience from actually doing the things rather than simply listening to me drone on all the time. So if I mean, okay, granted, some people, I think, like, some people can't attend the sessions physically, and it's a bit unfortunate. But if you go back and listen to what we're advising you to do, because we'll be doing that in each of the sessions to tell people who are listening to the recording to see what to do if you've missed it, or if you want to do it again, to do it during the week if you can. Grab somebody and perform the same actions.
We'll gladly help if we can.
Mm-hmm. So, any final questions before we start this match?
Space.
Everyone on the...
Yep. We'll be doing space and ground. Speaking of, actually.
But did you want to say something?
Nope. Is the ground just gonna be Shantytown?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it would be useful in the future use every available map. We know that most of them are, let's say, fucked up, but if we want to use every class we have, we can't just use Shantytown, because we know in Shantytown engineers rule, so...
Yeah,
no.
Basically.
Unfortunately, the other maps are built in such a way that the engineer class still holds an advantage. So with the cruiser, teleporter room can have more perspective on both the bridge and engineer, and the map used for the battles tournament, that's just every spawn point is a choke point which can be mined to hell, and the other map is just too damn small.
Yeah, we'll be using the standard the maps that we use during the PvP fleet events. There's going to be no change there. If anything, this is a direct link to those PvP fleet events that we're doing. I'll even be putting these MACO squadrons in the fleet events calendar that I post up every month. So, any final things to say for Ollie stops the recording, and we can go on with this match?
Is anyone going to film the PvP match? We can fraps it with the audio.
Well, listening to a bunch of us isn't going to be as effective as watching it. But if somebody has fraps, that would be nice.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly a requirement.
We'll perhaps do that in the future.
Anyone know
Yeah.
how to work the damn thing?
Hey, what about if what each of us who wants to improve actually posts a screenshot of our current build on, say, photo bucket and links it into a forum post? Maybe that could help too.
Well, that effectively leads to getting somebody else to do the work for you. It's a direct link to that. What I'm aiming is that you have your current build. You can display it on the forums if you want our help and you're really stuck. But what I recommend more is to keep the build now, even if you think it's terrible, and attend these sessions and see why things aren't going
Working, yeah.
your way with that build.
Yeah, basically.
And you
go
learn
on.
how to adapt it and improve it yourself. If you can't do it, we'll cover that in individual sessions over the month.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Probably not the first session, but from the second or third one, we'll heavily use STOW skill planner to show you build.
I think with that said, I think that's it.